Hello guys and welcome to Vlogging Project. Today we're gonna have a look at the Blackberry KEYone and I'm gonna tell you why I can't wait to get the review done so I can finally get rid of this phone, which doesn't mean I'm not gonna be objective, and I'm gonna talk about all the good and the bad things about the phone so you can decide for yourself. The current pricing officially is £550 in the UK over here, but if you're lucky enough you can find it for £400, especially if you click in the link in the description down below. So let's get started. So let's move on to the boxing, guys. We have a really high quality box. I really like when manufacturers are taking care of the small details like that. It just makes your overall experience a little bit better. So you've got books and SIM ejection tool over here. We've got USB Type-C cable, headphones, which are definitely not bad, to be honest with you. They're not perfect, but they're not bad at all. And you've got our supposedly quick charge over here. Which surprised me of the charger is that it has totally no branding whatsoever, no Blackberry logos, absolutely nothing. I didn't really expect that. And the problem I have with this charger is that the charging times are not nearly as fast as advertised. Let me show you what I'm getting quickly. Now these are my recharging times. I started the charge at about 2%, guys. So in half an hour I get 33%, 1 hour gave me 59%, 1 hour 30 minutes 88%, and 2 hours I've reached 100%. It's a little bit far off from the advertised quick charge. It's not a big deal because 2 hours is still acceptable, but if you advertise something, at least provide the necessary charge for it. Now the reason I bought this phone at the first place was design and build quality. I walked into a store, I had totally no intention to buy this phone. I looked at it, I've played around with it, and just the in-hand feel, it was so superb, and the materials used are so nice that I bought it full retail price of £550, guys. And let me tell you that instantly you're falling in love with this phone because it's heavy, it's bulky, it's made of very high grade aluminum which feels extremely strong. It has a really nice matte finish that I haven't really seen on any other phones, and it just feels amazing in the hand, guys. It's not a small phone though. Check this out. Comparing to the original Moto Z, which has a 5.5-inch screen, we're talking about more or less the same size. We've got huge bezels here, we've got not that big of a bezels, but only 4.5-inch screen. But of course that's because of the keyboard, which I'm gonna go through in a second. So first of all, let's check the different components of this phone. At the top we've got our 8 megapixel camera, the huge speaker grill. I could have wished that they've made some sort of a stereo setup, but they didn't. LED flash, a bunch of sensors over here. On top we've got a microphone, 3.5mm jack. At the bottom we've got one speaker, one microphone, and our USB Type-C charging port. We've got our full QWERTY keyboard over here. We've got these buttons, which I really hope that the back button was over here, but it's not a big of a deal because the phone is rather small over here in that area, so it's very easy for your thumb to reach the back button, so that's not a problem. We've got our fingerprint scanner over here. The fingerprint is very nice and very reliable, guys, and I really like that they've inbuilt it into the space button. But sometimes, every now and then, you press it and it just nothing happens. So basically you don't have to press it all the time, but sometimes when it doesn't work you might have to press it once like that to unlock the screen. Now at the back we've got our 13 megapixel camera, dual tone flash, the Blackberry logo over here, and this weirdly looking and feeling back cover, which is made of some sort of a TPU material. It feels like rubber, but it's a little bit awkward. It has plenty of grip, but it's a little bit on the cheap side. The Blackberry KEYone doesn't have a removable back cover, but if you have a little bit of longer fingernails, you can definitely remove it by just prying off the small prongs over here, as well as the back cover has been kind of glued over here with this double-sided tape here and over here as well. And what's interesting though is that the camera lens is built in the back cover as well. We've got some ribbon cable over here, that's for our NFC, and at this point I'm seriously surprised why we don't see any wireless charging on this phone when the battery connector is just over here, and they could have put just one cable running for the wireless charging. But anyway, let's have a look at the phone itself. That's where the heat is coming from. when heavy gaming or heavy tasking like that. And that's our big vibrator, old school vibrator motor, not like the small rounded ones on the new phones, but rather the big, you know, old school vibrator. Check this out. Check how powerful that thing is. That's why we're tapping. You can imagine what it is when the ring is on. It's absolutely ridiculous, guys, and I really like that they've used the space to use this old school vibrator motor. And what else? The battery capacity over here, and that, by the way, is a backlight from the screen. So let me switch the screen off. Check this out. So if you drop your phone into water, the screen is definitely not going to survive. And what else? The double-sided tape over here, and pretty much that's it. Now the big selling point of this phone was supposed to be the nice QWERTY keyboard, guys, but unfortunately that turned out to be the deal breaker for me, and unfortunately I can't stand this phone simply because of the stupid keyboard. Now before you say, oh, this guy's talking trash, that's the BlackBerry Passport that I really love, and the keyboard is amazing. Unfortunately, this keyboard over here is far from amazing because there are too many issues with it. Now, don't get me wrong, there's certain amount of satisfaction within yourself when you press these hardware buttons over here. It has a really nice kind of feel to it. The button travel is good as well, but it's absolutely slower than the on-screen keyboard, simply because if you have bigger hands than mine, which are just about average, you're gonna keep pressing 2 or 3 buttons at the same time, or if you try to use both hands, it's getting a little bit cramped and uncomfortable over here. So that's problem number one. Now the second problem that I have is the positioning of the buttons. If you're a hardcore BlackBerry fan, you might like this keyboard, but I don't. Simply because this button over here, the enter button, is way too small. It should have been over here. It should have been double the button. Now, why we have 2 capital letters button over here? I've never used this one. Why we have some button and we have only a currency button over here? That doesn't make sense at all. It should have been only one button. Spacebar, I have totally no problems with the spacebar. This button, I've never really used it in my life. And this button, I use it to capitalize the letters. Because if you hold on a letter, let's say button M, you think that you're gonna put a full stop. No, you have to hold Alt and then put M to put the full stop. Because if you hold on M, it's gonna put capital M. So, I mean, if when you hold it, put capital, why we have a capital, 2 capital buttons over here? That doesn't make sense. And as you know, the digital, you know, Android keyboard layout, the capitalized button is over here and the Alt button is over there. So these positions should be swapped in my opinion, and instead of holding to put a capital letter, it should be holding to put the symbol over here. That's how we can get rid of most of the buttons over here. Why? Why doing that, BlackBerry? I don't like that. Now, the third problem that I have with this keyboard is the keyboard backlight. You have totally no options or settings to set it up yourself. The only option you have is 10 seconds backlight. So basically, 10 seconds have elapsed, your keyboard is out already, you're playing a game, you tap the screen, and the keyboard backlight is back on. Why no settings to set this up, guys? Why there is no setting? I don't like the keyboard lit all the time, especially when I'm gaming. I don't like that. Now, and the last thing I don't like about this keyboard is the language support. Check this out. Basically, this keyboard is hardly coded to English. So if you type in English, absolutely no problem. But if you want to change to your mother language, you have to activate the second keyboard. You have to hold the spacebar, change the language, and then you can type on your mother language. However, this keyboard is still typing in English. Why? That doesn't make sense. So as I said earlier, you can use this gesture over here to delete the whole thing that you've already written. Just swipe on the keyboard like that, but sometimes accidentally you're deleting stuff that you're typing, as well as you're accidentally pressing those buttons over here as well, which is uncomfortable. So basically the only thing that I like about this keyboard is that you can map absolutely all of the buttons to shortcuts. Let's say you press Y, you go to YouTube. Let's say you press K, you go to keep. Let's say you press M, you go to maps. And I mean, all the buttons you can map them like that. I used a third-party application to map this button. If I double tap it, it changes the profiles over here, as well as I map this button over here, the inconvenience button, to be a back button. So let's check this out. You press it like that and you go back. Simply because if you're left-handed, this phone definitely makes sense. Power button here, convenience button over here. But if you're right-handed, nothing actually makes sense because your finger is on top of the volume buttons. That's crazy, guys. So I've set this up to back button and I really like it this way. But I think that they're supposed to, you know, make this button remappable to all functions that you need it out of the box and not rely on some third-party applications. But anyway, now one feature that I used to like quite a lot on my BlackBerry Passport and that they've ruined over here on this one is the keyboard scrolling like that. It might seem smooth now as I'm scrolling right now, but let me tell you something. These buttons here, the bottom row, is not sensitive to scrolling. This row over here is just a little bit sensitive, just a little bit. This row over here is very sensitive and this row over here is very sensitive as well. So you kind of have to use these two rows of scrolling, otherwise the experience is kind of, check this out. There is a delay, it's not very nice, it's not very smooth at all. I mean, it's not very reliable, so you're better off using your fingers for scrolling, unfortunately. So I gave this keyboard a fair chance, guys. I really wanted to like it, but it's just uncomfortable to type on according to my experience, and too many times I'm making mistakes, especially when I want to type numbers. Is getting messy over here. So what I could have wished and that could have made this phone perfect is just get rid of this keyboard, or at least get rid of those keys and put a normal aspect ratio on the screen, because we have gestures on the normal BlackBerry Passport over here. Why not implement these gestures as, let's say, Apple implemented those gestures in the iPhone X, the iPhone 10, excuse me. So why not make gestures, get rid of those buttons and make a normal screen, or get rid of the whole keyboard basically and make 2:1 aspect ratio screen, which they kind of did with the BlackBerry Motion. There's the brand new BlackBerry coming out very soon. It's gonna have the same specs. It's gonna be a little bit cheaper at about £400, and it's gonna get no keyboard and more or less the same design. So I'm really looking for that BlackBerry here, but unfortunately at the moment we are stuck with the KEYone, and that's my recommendation, guys. And now let's come to the screen, and the aspect ratio, 3:2 aspect ratio, is very awkward, and I'm really not a fan of this aspect ratio. The screen itself is only 4.5 inches, 3:2 aspect ratio, which is ridiculous. On some games you're getting a scaling issues, and I really don't like this aspect ratio because it's awkward. Again, if they could have get rid of those buttons, they probably could have done, you know, the proper screen size 16:9, but no, they went ahead with this one, and I really don't like that aspect. But apart from that, the screen is fine because at 4.5 inches you've got 1620 by 1080 resolution. You're gonna see no pixels. It's a very nice high quality panel, but let me tell you something, guys. The brightness of that screen is a little bit dim. It equals to about a 50% of the brightness of the Galaxy S8, and considering that that phone is actually more expensive than the Samsung Galaxy S8, I can't really understand why they didn't put a nice AMOLED screen on that phone rather than they went with a dim IPS LCD. But at least the colors, the resolution are just about right, and I can really appreciate the fact that when you go to display, you go to screen mode, they let you tweak the color calibration. You can put it on cold. I keep it warm because I like the screen to look like an AMOLED screen. But no matter which option you choose, I mean, it's very nicely calibrated and you're gonna enjoy that screen. Now let me show you a couple of wallpapers, guys, just to get an idea of the colors. I mean, it's very vivid screen, the colors, the blacks, the whites, I mean, everything is fine and I'm happy with the screen. It's just the aspect ratio which pisses me off from time to time is the problem. So screen overall, I would say thumbs up. Oh, one more thing, talking about the screen, there is a very high possibility of your screen popping out of the frame, guys. I guess you already watched Jerry Rick Everything videos that when he tried to bend the phone, the screen just popped like that. Simply because they didn't use enough glue on the first batch of devices. So according to Crackberry, check this out, screen-wise it's safe to buy provided that the build date is July 10th or later. Now how to check if your device is built before July 10th of 2017, there are two possible options. The easier way is to check your box. Date 9, month 8, 17, which means I'm safe in that case. My screen is using plenty of glue and it's not gonna pop out. If your box is different or if you're buying a second-hand device, you can do this button combination over here. You can pause it to see what you gotta do to check the production date of your phone, but just keep that in mind. If you buy your phone, buy it brand new, don't buy this phone second hand because of the glue issues. So moving on to the battery life of this phone, guys. 3500 mAh battery, Snapdragon 625, that's a good recipe for amazing battery life, and I can easily confirm that. Now my usage varies, it's very different from day to day, but it's mostly heavy and high usage, guys. Google Maps, Google Chrome, YouTube all the time, taking pics, videos, whatever you call it, that's heavy use. So check this out, 7 hours 19 minutes, 2% left. 5 hours 35 minutes, 4% left. 6 hours 28 minutes, 3% left. 5 hours 5 minutes, 9% left. 5 hours 24 minutes, 2% left. 7 hours 11 minutes, 3% left. 6 hours 19 minutes, 3% left. 6 hours 49 minutes, 2% left. 4 hours 37 minutes, 7% left. I've got no idea what I've done over here. I might have gone crazy with it. 6 hours 29 minutes, 1% left. 6 hours 47 minutes, 3%. 4 hours 56 minutes, 6%. So basically you can easily get a 2-day battery life of this phone, guys. I mean, I have totally no complaints. I'm very happy with the battery life. You're gonna get simply between 5 and maybe 8 hours of screen on time on this phone. So definitely thumbs up for the battery life. The battery life is very solid. Now, performance-wise, Snapdragon 625 performs more or less the same on all devices. I recently had the Xiaomi Redmi Note 4X and the benchmark results are more or less similar. But let me tell you guys, in the real world usage, you're gonna have absolutely no problems with the Snapdragon 625. The only situation that you're gonna feel that you're not using a flagship processor is when you open up a high demanding games like Mortal Kombat or something like that. It takes a little bit of time to load compared to let's say Snapdragon 820, 21, 35, but day-to-day usage is absolutely fine. The loading times are reasonable as well. Let me open up Maps again. I mean, everything is fine. I really don't mind the performance, guys. Now, what about gaming performance, guys? On Epic Citadel, I'm getting 52.8 FPS, which means absolutely flawless. No matter what kind of game you treat it, you're gonna play at maximum frame rate. It gets a little bit hot over here, but just a little bit. It's not a problem whatsoever. And the thing is that if you really play some super demanding game, you can tone down the resolution of the game. And if you play it at 720p, which is not gonna get too much of a difference on that small of a screen, you're getting 59.7 FPS, which is absolutely crazy, guys. Gaming performance, definitely thumbs up. No point showing you any games. You're not gonna have problems with the games. But the problem you will have with the games is the size of the screen. It's way too small, and when gaming, check this out. It's getting a little bit weird like that. I mean, it could be a little bit hard to reach that part of the screen, and that part of the screen you're reaching quite easily, and the speaker, because it's only one speaker, is getting blocked all the time. So I mean, gaming is fine, but the whole experience is a little bit bad, honestly. So speaking about the speaker, I mean, I have totally no idea why they didn't use the earpiece, this big earpiece here, to put a second speaker, and they rely only on one speaker, or at least make two bottom firing stereo speakers like they did on the Blackberry Passport. So the sound coming out of this speaker, guys, it's okay in day-to-day usage, it's loud enough, but let's say compared to the Galaxy S8, it's a little bit more quiet, which is definitely not a very good sign, simply because the Galaxy S8 doesn't sound that great. But let me show you what I'm talking about compared to the S8. So the next thing is the headphone jack. I really appreciate the fact that they've left the headphone jack on. Kudos to Blackberry for that. It's a little bit misaligned, it's not exactly centered, but that's just nitpicking in my opinion. But anyway, when you plug out a pair of headphones, I'm happy to report that the sound coming out of it is a little bit louder than the Galaxy S8, which is a good sign. Now the last thing that I'm gonna talk about today is the cameras on this phone. So the front camera, 8 megapixels, unfortunately is not very good, especially for a flagship phone. Let me show you a couple of photos. So as you see, guys, there are not plenty of details, it's a little bit blurry, so the front cam is unfortunately crap. However, I'm very happy to report that the back camera, it's absolutely amazing, guys. The HDR is phenomenal and it's easily on par with the Galaxy S8 when we talk about day-to-day usage. Let me show you how many great photos I took with this camera, and I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later on. So I'm very happy with the back camera, guys. It's easily the best Blackberry camera ever made. And I love two more things about the camera as well. Double tap the power button to launch the camera, as well as take a photo with the spacebar. How good is that? So basically the only field that this camera lacks behind the S8 is the autofocus and the speed of the actual focus, as well as there is no optical image stabilization, but I'm happy to report that while shooting a video, the electronic image stabilization gets the job done perfectly fine. So let me show you an example. Hello guys and welcome to Vlogging Project. It's time to test the video capabilities of the Blackberry KEYone. There is optical plus electronic image stabilization, so I'm expecting a pretty good results over here, to be honest with you. I'm walking at the moment holding the phone with one hand only. So at the moment it looks quite well, but you know how it is. When you upload it, sometimes it's a different story. So let me shake it up a little bit like that, a little bit like that, and let's start the quick run. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah, I'm very happy with the video as well, guys. It's not as good as the S8, especially when it comes down to focusing, but it's perfectly capable and it's gonna get the job done perfectly fine. So where does that leave us with the Blackberry KEYone, guys? Don't get me wrong, the phone is overall great and it's easily the best Blackberry phone out there. Simply because the battery life is amazing, the camera is top notch, as well. The overall performance is good. The gaming performance is okay in terms of frame rates, but in terms of display scaling issues and the overall size of the screen, just 4.5 inches is way too small and it ruins the experience. As well as, you know, dual stereo speaker setup would have been much appreciated. The headphone jack is fine. The display again is alright for an IPS LCD screen. The fingerprint reader is very fast and I really love it. And the biggest deal breaker for me is the keyboard. I don't like the layout. I don't like the slow scrolling. I don't like the squeaky buttons. It's just, that's nearly the perfect phone without the keyboard actually, which, you know, the phone is named after the keyboard. It's named KEYone. So, I mean, I don't know guys, if you're a hardcore Blackberry fan and you're used to type on this keyboard, that might be the perfect phone for you. But as a hardcore Android user, I'm using the same Android keyboards for many years now. That's a problem for me. I don't want to use this keyboard anymore and I'm going to be selling the phone straight away, guys. Now, £550 is absolutely ridiculous and I don't think anybody should pay the full retail price. I did because of the display popping out issues. I wanted to have warranty, obviously. So you can find this phone for about 500 at the moment officially, which is way too high as well. If you click at the link in the description, I'm going to give you a link to GearBest, which are going to sell you the phone for only £400, guys. Which is, well, I say only compared to the full retail price, but again, £400 for Snapdragon 625 phone, no. I would say that the real price of this phone, and if you want to buy this phone, you shouldn't pay more than £300 for this phone. Because if you missed my video, check this out. £300 X flagships, there are plenty of phones. The HTC Ultra has recently been discounted for £300. There are plenty of phones better than the Blackberry KEYone for £300, guys. So you might as well check the alternatives as well. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. By the way, make sure you follow me on Twitter. That's where I post some updates on my channel frequently. And there's a very nice surprise coming out for the Motorola fans in the next few days. So stay tuned, subscribe to my channel as well, and see you in the next one. Adios.